And we are recording. It is Thursday morning. We're up and running. I'm sitting here blinded by the light, which is the whole point of all this. Uh, Embracing the light. And the interesting thing is that the light and love are synonymous. So if you're embracing the light, you're embracing love and vice versa. How are you this morning, Barrett and Charlie? Are things filled with light in your life?
I'm feeling pretty copacetic. So yeah, so far so good. Yeah, it's good to be with you guys.
It's wonderful to be with you guys. I've missed you both. Feeling very light-filled.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chris.
Well, it's what we're doing. I mean, there's so much darkness in this realm, and we really are being called upon to shine on like that harvest moon. We're supposed to be out there reflecting the light, bringing it through to others.
I agree completely. So it's nice as we're kind of heading through summer here to be practicing that and really discussing how we can come into our truth and feel that more in our experience. So as always, A Course in Miracles is that path, right? A Course in Miracles gives us the practice of forgiveness, and we use forgiveness in each and everything that comes our way, every challenge, every situation, every conflict, to help that shift and resolve itself into love and light. So it's not just the idea of the oneness. It's about how do we get there, and I think the Course, more than any other path that I know, really gives us that roadmap and gives us the steps that we need to take again and again in order to achieve that experience.
Yeah, and what's so sweet about that is, Jesus is so clear at the very beginning of the Course about having a little bit of willingness. And I find that, the willingness, the recognition of that willingness comes along more and more often. And it's just that simple. That little bit of willingness to turn to Holy Spirit and ask for that guidance, just shows us over and over and over again the light. It shows us over and over again the love. It shows us over and over again that peace, and brings that to us, or makes us aware that it is part of us all the time. And it just changes the perspective on the world that we live in, and allows us to go through these journeys, go through this journey on a daily basis with so much more joy and light and love in our lives. It's beautiful.
That it absolutely is. And the last couple of days, I've been going through chapter 5, Healing and Wholeness. And today I was looking at the ego's use of guilt. Guilt is very insidious. It's very subtle. We end up, stepping on the cat's tail when we're opening the refrigerator, and we end up feeling guilt about it. So we're always glomming on to guilt. We're always embracing guilt and carrying it with us. And I think that's one of the things that perhaps doesn't get a huge amount of reference as far as, people talking about A Course in Miracles. But guilt is one of the key elements in getting out of the trap, in being able to maneuver through, this world without having that attachment that following us. Charlie, I think you need to change your washing machine setting.
Hey, Chris, I can hear you.
No guilt though. No guilt.
Don't have any guilt around that. Here in that second paragraph, in heaven there is no guilt, because the kingdom is attained through the atonement. That idea of being at one with God and Jesus and all of mankind, all of the human elements that we're surrounded by. Which releases you to create. The word create is appropriate here, because once you have what you have made, is undone by the Holy Spirit. In other words, you really didn't step on the cat's tail. So you don't have to carry that guilt. And then he goes on to say, the blessed residue is restored and therefore continues in creation. What is truly blessed is incapable of giving rise to guilt and must give rise to joy. So, and like I was saying when we first started off this morning, this goes back to that idea of love. You know, what is creation? Well, creation is the expression, the allowance of the manifestation of love to come through you. And if you're working on that vibrational level, then the cat is going to unconsciously switch its tail before your foot hits it, and you're not going to load up on guilt. It's all going to work out.
Well, that's a lucky cat. It got out of the way of your foot this time.
It's that salvation element. I remember one time I was in San Jose driving on the freeway like a lunatic, because I drive like a lunatic. And
no comment.
Like 95 miles an hour. And on the other side of the freeway, on the southbound lane, there was a car fire. And, you know, I was looking at the car fire, not realizing that some doofus in front of me slowed down to like 30 miles an hour to look at the car fire. And, you know, that presence of Jesus, which I always feel when I'm driving, slapped me in the head and said to look up. And I looked up and dodged the car without looking behind me, without looking in mirrors, just, you know, total trust. And really felt that presence lift me out of my lane into the other lane. I probably missed that slow car by maybe 2 feet, you know, and I'm sure that they were sweating bullets at that point. But that has been my experience in life, because I have always had that expectation that Jesus was going to guide me. It was going to take over when I was shooting myself in the foot.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I had an experience a little like that just yesterday. I was driving down 294, and you know, it wasn't a lot of traffic, but you know, so I was going along pretty quick, as you do when there's not a lot of traffic. And all of a sudden, the car ahead of me starts. I see the brake lights, and I see the brake lights in the car ahead of them, and I'm kind of like wondering, like, why are they stopping? So I move over a lane to avoid them slowing down. And what do I see? But I see a mama duckling and like 5 little baby ducks behind her crossing 294.
Oh, gosh.
So I slam on my brakes too, and you know, swerve a little bit, just barely miss these baby ducks, and they scurry the rest of the way across the last lane of the 4-lane wide highway to get over to the ditch. Everyone was safe, but it was definitely a little bit like, whew, all right, thank you for helping me slow down a little bit, because just before that, I had the thought, oh yeah, you know, I don't need to go quite this fast. And so I was just starting to slow down a little bit when all this happened. So, you know, the Spirit gives us nudges and just as we need them, right?
What's interesting, you know, this conversation that you were talking about this story of guilt. The first thing I started thinking about, Chris, when you were talking about it, was the you know, Jesus talks about how we create situations in our lives, you know, and they're always stories of duality. They're always stories involving 2 bodies or more. And we take this situation, and that's what we do in the situation. There's always guilt projection in it, you know. Either we're making somebody else guilty, or, you know, we can turn it on ourselves as well and make ourselves guilty. And when we, you know, it's one of the wonderful things, you know, that again, the Course has brought to me, to be able to see when I'm doing this, you know. And as you're both aware, I just went through a physical move, changing my location, you know, changing our home address, and it's such an easy experience. It's when Chris, you were talking about the subtlety of it, you know. It's such a subtle thing to be able to go to that guilt, and the move is just such an opportunity to see it, because you go to it over and over and over again. You know, So the question in my mind is, why do you have this? Why do you have so much of this? Why should the salt shaker be there? Why, there's one thing after another when you're dealing with all this physical stuff, all this stuff in this illusion that we take for real. And it's such a wonderful opportunity to learn this lesson over and over and over again. Look how you project guilt onto somebody over absolutely nothing. It's a story I make up. It doesn't matter where the salt shaker ends up, but I can make a mountain out of a molehill with a salt shaker, in my situation, in my story, in my ego, in listening to my ego. And so again, it's just this move was just such a, people keep asking me, how was it? And I keep thinking about what a wonderful learning experience it was for me. Because, talk about, Chris, you were just saying getting slapped in the head. Well, that's kind of what was going on for me. It was like, over and over and over again, moment by moment, I could do it. And so it's really wonderful. It's so joyous too, when you see it, when it's just like, oh man, it's so great to see that you're doing this, not to have any guilt about it, just to recognize that, man, there I go again. I chose the ego. I don't need to do that. Holy Spirit, help me here.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's amazing how we get trapped in our own little machinations. Going down a couple of more paragraphs here, it says, "Whatever you accept into your mind has reality for you."
Yeah.
So it's not reality, but it seems to be reality.
Yeah. Yeah.
It says it is your acceptance of it that makes it real. If you enthrone the ego in your mind, you're allowing it to enter, makes it your reality. This is because the mind is capable of creating reality or making illusions. I said before that you must learn to think with God. To think with Him is to think like Him. This engenders joy, not guilt, because it is natural. So really what we're beginning to recognize with these ideas is that the ego is a bubble of a false reality that we have decided to enter into and embrace. It has absolutely no substance and absolutely no validity on any other level but our personal level. And that's what is so fascinating. We're watching the world right now with all of these different dichotomies. We're seeing the Bush people and the Democrats and the Russians, and we've got all of these different thoughts or ideas, and then we've got 7.5 billion people with their own perspective on it. So we have got so many artificial realms that are bouncing around here that we are a victim to if we allow ourselves to be. So then immediately, once we realize we're buying into it, when we throw things into reverse and start to back out of that ditch, all of a sudden the air becomes a lot cleaner. And the people that are catching our attention are less impassioned with being a Republican or being a Democrat or being a this or being a that. And all of a sudden we start to come into cool, clear water. We're out of the tumult, and we're out of the brack, and we're out of that sludgy river bottom kind of situation that we were swimming in. And, when I grew up in Colorado, one of my favorite things was to follow the Arkansas River up into the mountains, because down in Pueblo, where I grew up, the Arkansas was like very, very muddy. You would look at the river and you couldn't see the bottom. You could all you could see was this brownish muck floating downstream. But then you'd get 10 miles up the canyon, and the water is flowing over rocks instead of dirt, and it's crystalline, it's pure, it's sublime, and it's, back in the day when I grew up, you could go and drink out of it, you could go fishing in it, you could go swimming in it. It was fresh, it was refreshing, and it was amazing how, a 15 or 20 mile trip could make so much difference. And that really is the circumstances of our lives. If we go up to a little bit higher altitude, the water becomes much more pure, and we're able to drink it right out of the stream. We're able to take pleasure in its coolness on a hot day. And, you know, that's how I envision A Course in Miracles. It's getting to that higher level where I can get relief from the darkness, the dankness, and all of the muddy attributions of living down here in the flatlands afford us.
Oh, what a great metaphor. You know, as we go higher, the water becomes more clear. As we go above the chaos of this world, our mind becomes more clear. And this is so beautifully expressed in that section above the battleground. How do we get there, right? That's kind of the question. Well, we don't get there by fixing the battle, right? We don't get there by fighting harder in our armor. You know, that's really not the answer. And it really seems to be the answer. It's so, when our world is challenging, when our world has problems, a lot of times we think, oh, well, I'm going to fix this and then I'll be fine, you know, or maybe I'll work on the spirituality stuff after these 3 important issues in my life get resolved. We're always kicking the can down the road. But the problem is the world is going to keep giving us issues and problems, and it's going to keep sucking us in over and over. And it's not until we actually realize, what do I want here? I want to be peaceful. I want to know the love of God. And when we make that claim and that commitment, that helps us start to lift above all of the, you know, slings and arrows of this world. And when we do that, even just a little bit, it starts to change our experience. It's not that we don't still do the things in the world that we need to do. We do. We do everything that has to unfold here. But it's different. All of a sudden we get, even in a slightly bigger way, that we're not the ones doing it. Not really, right? Because this is basically just a play that's happening here. This is a movie that's unfolding, and it's just being projected onto the screen of our mind. And as we really start to get that, it frees us. It frees us, and it helps us to step into, you know, that sense of openness and love that we're always going for, and undo that sort of detritus and that muck that we often feel so stuck in. So that's our work, again and again, practicing this.
Yeah, and I love the the simplicity of this. And just a little further on in this chapter that you're reading from today, Chris, it says the Holy Spirit and the ego are the only choices open to you. God created one, and so you cannot eradicate it. You made the other, and so you can. And the recognition that using the stream as the metaphor again, it is that simple, that all we really need do is head upstream, and we're gonna make these little mistakes. We're gonna have these little errors where we decide to do a 180 and go back down towards the browner water. But once we get a little taste of this clear water and a little taste of this beauty of the clear stream, we want more and more of that, And the other part of this too is the recognition that none of this is being done for Charlie. This is being done for the Son of God, So the recognition is that every time that I make a choice to work with ego, I'm subjecting the Son of God to that. And every time I make a choice to work with Holy Spirit, right? And there's only those two choices, I'm making that choice for the Son of God. And so it's affecting all of us, even though, somebody else is looking at the brown water. It's having an effect on all of us because there's just one of us here. And I just love that section right there. And then it goes on just a little bit further. It says, what you made can always be changed, right? So we can always go back upstream, because when you do not think like God, you are not really thinking at all. Delusional ideas are not real thoughts, although you can believe in them, but you are wrong. The function of thought comes from God and is in God. As part of his thought, you cannot think apart from him. So as Bear was just touching on, this is already a done deal. We just need to wake up to it. We just need to wake up to the fact that this clear stream and this clear water and this beauty is something that is always there for us.
That is very, very true. And, one of the things about the way that we are integrated into this world hinges on the idea of time. We always feel like, oh, well, tomorrow I'll get it done better. Tomorrow I'll rectify the issue, blah, blah, blah. So when we go down to the next section here, it says God in his knowledge is not waiting. So God's doing his God thing or her God thing, which is the ecstatic experience. God is in that state of bliss and that state of love. But it says, but his kingdom is bereft while you wait. So that is the leveler. And God's not got a problem with the fact that you're dragging your feet. He's just patiently watching in expectation of your willingness to, tone down the time, to step out of that timeline. All the sons of God are waiting for your return, just as you're waiting for theirs. So we've got, again, that idea of 7.5 billion of us, and how long can we all drag our feet? Well, it seems like eternity, but in actual fact, it is subject to time, so it will eventually cease to be. It says delay does not matter in eternity, but it is tragic in time. You have elected to be in time rather than eternity, and therefore believe you are in time. So again, we're given this idea that it is our choice. It has nothing to do with anything around us, with anyone around us. We are not being held back by any exterior force. We're the ones who are causing the delay and causing the frustration and the unhappiness. It says you do not belong in time. Your place is only in eternity. And think about that. When we're in time, we're getting wrinkles, we're getting white hair, we're getting, sciatica, we're getting arthritis, we're getting all these wonderful attributes of time placed on our body. Because, but you don't belong there. Your place is only in eternity, where God himself placed you forever. So why not step out of time every once in a while, which is what the holy instant is talking about. When we still the mind, we step out of time. And the holy instant is that brief experience of eternity. That's why you will always have the experience of light. You're sitting there, you've got your eyes closed, you're watching your mind, it's slowly winding down, and then all of a sudden there is this spark. There is this brief second where you stop thinking. And that is the gateway to eternity. And you will always have an experience that involves either a flash of light or a sense of being projected into a whole different realm that is filled with light. So whenever you're looking to have the holy instant and access that space of atonement, what you're doing is you're stepping into eternity. You're stepping back into your home.
You there, Barrett? Uh-oh.
Well, that's interesting.
Brother B has disappeared.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to have to rejoin us here, but...
Yeah, so there he is. Now he's back.
So did you just step into eternity, Barrett?
I think so, yeah. That spark opened up in my mind, and then you guys disappeared on my screen, and I don't know.
Everything went white?
It's a long tunnel. No.
So did you hear what I was blithering, or did you miss?
Yeah. I heard most of your blithering anyway. No, it was just such good stuff. I was just really, I really love that idea, and I love what you're saying, and it actually fits right in with with another section I was just looking at before we started to talk, which is actually farther along in the text in chapter 25, where Jesus says, "You and your brother are the same, as God Himself is one and not divided in His will. And you must have one purpose, since He gave the same to both of you. His will is brought together as you join in will, that you be made complete by offering completion to your brother. See not in him the sinfulness he sees, but give him honor that you may esteem yourself and him."
Oh, he's gone again, I think. Roby? Well, it's kind of, can you hear me, Chris? Oh, okay. I was just, it's kind of interesting because Barrett was jumping over to chapter 27, and yet right after where you were reading today, just now, Chris, in paragraph 1 there, and it says, "Remember the kingdom always. Remember that you who are part of the kingdom cannot be lost. The mind that was in me is in you, and God creates with perfect fairness." And like Barrett was just saying, let the Holy Spirit remind you always of His fairness. And let me, being Jesus, right, let me teach you how to share it with your brothers, right? So He's telling us, again, I'm here to be your guide. Let me teach you, so you understand that this is only being done for the one Son of God, and this going to the light, or this understanding, or this clarity that both of you were talking about is shared with us, shared with our brothers. Not something done alone. Yeah, it's beautiful. Hi, Barrett. Nice to see you.
I think I've been enlightened again. This stuff's really working.
It was interesting because I was just saying that you had flipped over to chapter 27, and yet just in the paragraph or two below where Chris was just reading, it was saying that Jesus is saying, let me teach you how to share it with your brothers.
Yeah.
We have this incredible teacher just waiting there to be asked for help, guidance, and sharing the love. Right? Oh, it's magnificent.
It's true. Every relationship we have is an opportunity to remember that the peace is here, and that all of these distractions and layers are not the truth.
Right. And see all our brothers in the light that Chris was just talking about. That is the truth of who they are, not the bodies that we, that our eyes want to see. The truth is they are light.
Mm-hmm. It's good work.
Yeah.
Well, further down, there's kind of a final idea here that we can look at briefly, and then probably wind it up for this session. It says, "I will visit the sins of the fathers unto the third and fourth generation," as interpreted by the ego, is particularly vicious. And we see a lot of this right now in the fundamental movement that's going on globally, where there is a lot of guilt being passed from generation to generation.
Yeah.
It goes on to say it becomes merely an attempt to guarantee the ego's own survival. See, and again, that's that idea of separation. It takes two or more of us in order to have guilt. If you recognize the oneness that you are, then guilt becomes impossible. To the Holy Spirit, the statement means that in later generations, He can still interpret what former generations had misunderstood, and thus release the thoughts from the ability to produce fear. So ultimately, what we're doing every time that we do go looking for that clear water, we are forwarding this process where we're releasing all of humankind from the collective guilt that we have put together over the last, 50,000 years. So it really is a process that is proactive. The stuff that you're doing with the Course is not for you in the sense of the ego you, but it is for you in the sense of the collective one creation of God. So then it becomes very, very important that we follow through and that we devote ourselves every day just to, even the most minute amount of time spent in that state where we're in acceptance of the presence of Jesus and the presence of God.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Beautiful. I'm in acceptance of the placing of the salt shaker.
Yes.
Or at least you're getting there.
No guilt here, baby.
Yeah, you can always toss a salt shaker into the stream and
What'd you say, Chris? Toss it in the stream? Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I love it. Oh, well, thank you guys so much.
And Barrett, do you have any information for us about appearances and phenomenon and
Saturday?
Yeah, this Saturday, Charlie and I are doing another good news. This one is on choosing peace. So this is Saturday, 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Central Time in Glenview. And you can always check online if you need more information. Go to barretthadeen.com or just reach out to, or miraclesu.org, I guess is the other one you can look at. You can join us online if you're not in the Chicago area. Just sign up through the link there, and it'd be great to see you. Yeah, I guess that's what we got.
You're going to be going back to the land of beer steins.
Yes, Deutschland is calling me again, so I'll be returning in about a few weeks, August 22nd. So we'll probably do at least one more of these before I hop over the pond yet again for another journey. So. And
anything coming up that you want to share, Charlie?
No, that this good news is the next one that Barrett just talked about, and we've yet to plan our continuation of this, which we'll do when Barrett's in Germany. We'll figure out how we can keep rolling in September, October, November, and keep it going. We're going into Barrett, are we going into our 4th year now, I think?
Yeah, well, this is the beginning of our 5th year. This is our 4 years.
Beginning of our 5th year, that's what I thought. Okay. Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? We've done 48 of these. Yeah, 49 coming up on Saturday.
We keep going.
Ah, amazing.
It's awesome. And kind of a parallel of that, this, the Miracle Within session, I think we're getting up to about 191.
All right.
Wow.
Coming up on 200 here pretty soon.
We're moving in that direction. That's exciting.
Very cool.
That's cool. All right, I've got to run, guys. I've got to head out and start my errands before I get to my group at 11:30. So
we will see you again soon. I'll be back here in 2 weeks.
Saturday, Barrett and Chris. Thank you so much for doing this again with me and including me. And I hope to be with you next week.
Sounds awesome.
All right.
Thanks so much.
All right. Bye.
And Barrett, I'll chat with you very soon. I'm sure we're connecting for a little bit of Al-Bawadi.
That sounds awesome. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I'll see you there at 5 on Saturday.
Sounds great. Well, have a great day, and I'll look forward to seeing you in a couple of days.
All right, awesome. Bye, man.
Bye.